Hey, welcome, friends. Zane here, founder of Ships. And today I wanted to talk about a little bit of the behind the scenes work for figuring out some of the things with the wallet, as well as talking about some of the organizational stuff that we're doing with token engineering. So let's dive into it. So with our application, what we want to do is with Swapland, that is, we want to represent all of the tokens that are within a user's wallet for a quick lookup. And so in order to do that, we kind of need to know, well, what wallet holds what? So today I popped into office hours to just confirm my conception of reality, which is in order to get that information, the best way for me to do it is to either run my own indexer or use the near public index. So near has this Postgres instance where you can then make queries to figure out what's going on with the network. And so it just kind of explodes all of the actions, all of the methods and the parameters that are made on the chain. And it kind of puts it in a nice logical way so you can kind of work out what's going on. And what the wallet does is it looks for things like NFT underscore transfer and NFT token metadata to figure out what those contracts are. And then you can either do two approaches, which is to just check by calling the actual methods for whether or not you have token ownership on that particular contract. And so this way you can build a view of what a person has in their wallet. And I think this is changing with the near NFT events, which are just now sort of popping off. If you check out on the nets, you'll see that floating around. So I'm just going to look at a couple lines that I was told were pretty good, and we'll step through what that does. So here we're looking at the wallet front end. Your wallet blob, blah, blah. Okay. So here we're looking at get tokens, and it says, oh, cool. Here's this method that we're going to call in the contract name called NFT tokens for owner set. And I think this is actually calling into the indexer. So we scroll through. Okay, cool. NFT token metadata, NFT tokens for owner, calling that on the contract, and then the name, and then the index per page. And so this will mean that I think if you don't find anything, follow through and call this view function on the contract. So if we switch here into the indexer, so here we have this near contract helper. And so what it's saying is, let's take a look at what it is that we need to call to find likely NFTs. So it's saying, okay, here's this account ID, here's a received result that we want. So we're going to look at the database and say select distinct receiver account ID as receiver account ID. Okay. So we have some account ID that we want to look for. And then we're going to do a join and some sort of union query across this, then figure out oh, did I receive or hold this particular NFT or token? So if we were to just go one more layer down, one of the things I like to use for just exploratory purposes is DB or dbeaver. And so dbeaver is now pointing at this Postgres endpoint, which is the public endpoint specified within, let's see, the near indexer. So the one that was specific for wallet was deprecated, but I'm pointing at the mainnet Postgres read-only instance. And so this allows you to kind of see the tables and things like that, and to make sense of sort of what's happening with the blockchain. So there's ER diagrams and things like that. So you can see action receipts, originated transaction. And if you look at the schema for some of the transactions, you can then see some of the names and the account IDs there, and pretty much all the data that you might need to resolve what is happening on the chain. And so there's this thing called transaction actions. You can see that these are like function calls, and it tells you like the arguments to the functions and the sort of method names. So is honeypot is called, etc. And if you look here, you can see some of the method names as well, like apply for assignment. So doing this, essentially the query is going to join against this table. What do you think? Whatever table, which may be like account IDs or something of the sort. That join then allows you to then query for the sort of like NFT transfer function or NFT underscore function, and that can give you back a candidate list of contract names. So that way you can resolve what's there. So what does this mean for Swapland? It means that Swapland is going to have to run an indexer, or we'll use this public instance very responsibly. So that's pretty much to the closing end of that arc. And then I'm just gonna like switch gears and move towards Sputnik or Sputnik DAO. So earlier today, I was talking with the token engineering group, and I was saying that we need to put together a little bit of a DAO. So we just kind of stepped through the new astrodao like process, which is pretty cool. And so we have this apples and oranges DAO, no proposals, but just stepping through the creation and trying to get a feel for what's possible. And so with an astrodao, you can do these things like request a payout or claim a bounty. But we found this to be more limited than using Sputnik DAO v2. So if we look at Sputnik DAO v2, we have this v2 fund. It just already pulled us into our DAO that we're just kind of playing around with. We're able to add members. We can add a new proposal. A new proposal has these cool things. So these Rocketo streams, which are super awesome. I haven't used it yet, but this means that you could do sort of streaming payouts, which is just like a thing that is becoming more and more popular. Like how do you drip payments periodically over time without actually having to pay the transaction costs? So micropayments like that are like really awesome. And there's so many things you can do with that. And then the other ways you can do, you can add council members, you can token farm, which is really like awesome to be able to like do these kinds of things. So you can say like, oh, what's the receiver? It's the token supply, all of that jazz, which is awesome. So we're like, okay, let's do this and just go through the process ourselves of what it would feel like for a startup to use this to do all kinds of DeFi things, not only on Near, but also on Ethereum. So look forward to many experiments going in that direction. So it's Friday and I've got to run, but it's been a great week. I can't wait to see you next week on Monday and tell you what it is we've been up to, what we learned, what we saw, and I hope you have a great weekend. Thanks. I can't stop this video.